The fantasy news must flow. Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I'm your Disheveled Goblin host Daniel Green, and today we're going to be starting off with just two little quick personal updates. The first of which is I've had a few people wondering why I haven't been covering some of the more serious news stories, I guess is the way to put it, recently here on the channel. And the answer to that is quite simple. I have been threatened with what I would consider a slap lawsuit this year, and Kayla and I are wonderfully off. There's no huge financial crunch. We are just also trying to plan for the next part of our life, and a massive financial blow like that would screw that up. So we're trying to avoid anything that could piss anyone off while I'm getting a little bit more prepared to tackle stuff like that in the future. And that is where I will leave that on the advice of legal counsel. The second update is that my book, Better Dead, is coming along really well. I'm very excited for it. It has been entirely structured and planned out now. I am really happy where it is at after rewriting it entirely from the ground up to, instead of being in the first person, to the third. And which actually was a really great thing to do. It helped me punch up everything, it felt like, but also, yes, super frustrating. And I just wanted to put this in here to say, yes, writing a book is incredibly hard. There are going to be times where it feels like after writing 50,000 words, you have to entirely reset. But enjoy the process as much as you can. It's an art form and should be treated as such. And if I can do it, you can do it. I believe in you, and I believe whatever project you're working on can one day be promoted here in Fantasy News as a part of the Indie Pub promo or Trad Pub. I love you all. Let's keep writing. Now let's jump into the news. First of all, we're gonna go straight into said book news because we are having a cover reveal kick us off here called Future's Edge from Gareth L. Powell, who you can tell is quite far along and well done in their career because of how much bigger their name is than the title. Good job. That's a hell of an achievement as an author. It really is. With artwork by Julia Lloyd, and this is pitched as a gripping, heartfelt, horror-tinged space adventure from the BSFA award-winning author of Stars and Bones and Embers of War. Readers of James S.A. Corey and Becky Chambers will love this fast-paced story of space piracy, deadly alien artifacts, and a race to save what is left of humanity. Oh, and I think I'm kind of getting Hyperion vibes just because of the composition of like person looking out over expanse thing, but having also ancient society within science fiction realm, which this cover is also conveying, magnifique, and using the overall yellow tinge to like color and atmosphere and let us know, not Earth. Well done. This is a really good one, and I'm happy with it. Also, writing horror, what I'm writing, not to talk about my current writing again, sorry, but I'm writing what is like a survivalist horror trapped on an island epic fantasy book, and writing horror might be like my new favorite thing ever, so I'm also reading a lot of horror right now. I'm also reading a whole lot of like political philosophy, which is also like horror because it makes you think of like, oh God, we're still having the same debates since Rousseau was alive. How did I get here? I don't know. Let's get back to the news. I'm happy to say this next cover reveal is actually going to be one that I'm glommed onto, and that's because we have a cover reveal for the deluxe edition of Will of the Many, with artwork by Jamie Joan, and brought to us by Saga Press. But I'm gonna go ahead and toss this on over to a quick little guest host who you could say is a bit more qualified to talk about this book than myself.
Hey Daniel, James Islington here. If I can just jump in for a second, I'll take this one. So there is a deluxe edition of The Will of the Many on the way. This is something we've been working on for a while now. It's got new cover art from Jamie Jones, which I think looks absolutely fantastic. It's got gold sprayed edges, full color map end pages, foil stamp design on the hardcover case. It's going to look amazing. And beyond the looks, we're also going to include as an appendix the original prologue that I wrote for the story. And this is where Vis escapes the hierarchy attack on Seuss. Yeah, new material as well. And I'm actually really excited that we get to include that in the deluxe edition. This all comes out on November the 19th. And I think that's it. Back to you.
And fun fact about this cover, might be the first fantasy book I've ever seen with the word "of" 3 times on the cover. I have a deep appreciation of monolithic structures, and not only is there a ship coming in that is a monolith in itself, but we have this thickum boy in the background, and I want to hug it. Thank you, James Islington, for being willing to come on the channel to do the announcement. But for this next one, I'm going to have to say, everyone, I'm sorry. Usually I try and get you announcements for limited edition books before they are sold out. But not too surprisingly, the folio edition of Neuromancer has sold out despite its $600 price tag, or £400 or $400 pounds. Oh my God. Or 400 pounds, it sold out in under 4 hours. To be perfectly honest, I'm kind of glad this sold out so fast.
I don't need it.
Because I would really struggle not to get this.
Definitely don't need it.
And now it's not an option for me.
I don't need it.
That is actually, I'm glad. I'm genuinely glad it's not, because it looks so good. Neuromancer is a book that essentially set the tone for cyberpunk going forward, actually brought real words into our now everyday speech, and is probably must reading for massive sci-fi fans, not even just cyberpunk fans in general. And this is, quite frankly, the best edition I've ever seen of it. That price tag, though, is just out of what even I'm willing to spend most of the time. And I'm absolutely thrilled to say that legend of the genre, Terry Brooks, has posted to his Instagram, "I have finished writing the Shannara sequel to Gallifile and turned it into my editor at Del Rey. This is the first draft of an untitled new Shannara novel, book 2 in the first Druids of Shannara series," which from the title seems to be a prequel. And I'm also gonna go ahead and say we just had Terry Brooks on the channel for an interview that was one of my favorite, and here's a clip.
Do you think that you've had such a successful career because your last name rhymes with books?
I had not thought of that. That's very good. I'm going to put my new titles out under Terry Brooks, but I'll put a big check mark through the R so people will get it. And it'll say Terry Books.
Yeah.
And I'll soon become known as the Bookman.
In 1978, American fantasy editor Lynn Carter denounced the Sword of Shannara as the single most cold-blooded, complete ripoff of another book that I have ever read.
Well, I don't know how well read he is, so I can't comment on that directly. But where's Lynn Carter?
No idea.
Dead.
I'm not saying he's a killer, but I am pointing out it's implied. Link to that interview down below, and we'll be having Sir Joseph Abercrombie on quite soon as well for the funny interview, the ha-ha. But for those indie authors that I was trying to encourage at the beginning of the video here, I also want to say, if you are interested in possibly submitting some of your work for a championship, the Speculative Fiction Indie Novella Championship is officially taking entries. And a lot of people have asked me over the years, like, how do you start getting a name for yourself in the speculative fiction space? There's so many people. It often can be through smaller competitions like this that maybe helps you pick up a dozen or so fans. One of them becomes an avid fan, and it grows and grows. Growing as an author takes so much time. There's so few overnight successes. So I do encourage people to check things out like this, and also it's just a great way to possibly get some feedback on your work. There's a form to fill out. Highly recommend people check it out if this is your space. So how could you quote unquote fix, punch up, elevate your own writing? I'm happy to say Sabata here, best-selling author, actually has a course available on today's sponsor, Skillshare, that focuses on building believable characters. She talks about defining their goals, motives, and conflict to set the groundwork to determine the key attributes and build them up, placing them in different scenarios to find out how they might react. She uses this specific example that I have found immensely helpful in my own writing called the character interview. This method is straightforward and rather simple, but helps you really dig into the roots of that character's mind and flesh out their characterization and basically beat by beat through the scene. It's available on Skillshare, who we are always grateful to have as today's sponsor, because it's the largest learning community online with thousands of courses to help you master whatever craft you want to take on. These Skillshare learning paths are probably the most impressive development I've seen from Skillshare as they've been a sponsor on the channel. It shows a true understanding of topics are not narrow and constrained. To become a master, you have to take in so much more, and Skillshare's here to deliver. And the first 500 people to click the link in the description down below get a free 30-day trial, so be sure to check that on out. And now, back to the video. But that is going to take us to our trailer news. And the first one we're going to be covering here today, of course, is we had the first full-length trailer drop for Season 2 of Rings of Power. And once again, I'm fully willing to say this trailer aesthetically looks sick. I'm not going to be able to read anything beyond that. I still have a hope in my heart that there is a real momentum to this season, story and character-wise, that will ensnare me more than the last season did. I certainly think this trailer is going to be wonderful for the crowd that likes putting together those like action montages, because they are doing that well. I'm a massive sucker for these like army shots they have going on. That immediately makes me think of things like Helm's Deep and Minas Tirith. It's just a problem of let's hope there's greater substance there beyond, well, doesn't this make you think of this other thing? And there's inklings that the Sauron conflict could be taken in a interesting direction. And if I had to give like one big compliment to this, I like that this trailer wasn't dropped, the full-length one anyway, like so far before the actual premiere. This is, like, in terms of marketing, the right time in my opinion to drop the trailer, because it's actually going to be premiering August 29th. And if you're a fan of fantasy horror like myself, one of the most influential fantasy horror films of all time, A Nightmare on Elm Street, is going to be getting a 4K restoration. Coming out just in time for Halloween, we will be able to get our hands on this 4K restoration of the Freddy Krueger classic October 1st. And I don't know if this is a movie that's still watched a lot by like the younger generation. I'm not even gonna claim it's like something you must watch right now, because there's so much even coming out currently in the horror space that is of supreme quality that people should probably be paying attention to as well. But if you are someone who is a young horror fan just getting into it, definitely make time at some point in the future to consume the Krug, because Nightmare on Elm Street is remembered so fondly for a reason. And unlike Jason or Michael Myers, yeah, Freddy Krueger's gotten lesser in quality and the sequels became a bit but it has stayed interesting in a way that those other franchises are not. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but possibly even check out the sequels as well. And Robert Englund actually makes the character of Freddy Krueger a real character, unlike Jason or Michael, who are walking knives. Would you believe it, right after saying that, I'm going to have to eat my words after dipping them in gravy, because it appears the A24 prequel series Crystal Lake is actually possibly happening. After Brian Fuller, the original series creator, left, many people thought that this could be dead in the water with the long history of canceled and delayed Friday the 13th reboots or sequels have been attempted in the last several years since the last major entry in 2009. But now Brad Caleb Kane is stepping in as the showrunner, creator, and executive producer, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because he has worked on Warrior, Tokyo Vice, Black Sails, and freaking Fringe, as well as the upcoming It, Welcome to Derry series. Victor Miller, who wrote the original 1980 film, is still involved as an executive producer, but not much is known about what exactly this prequel story will try and tell. But having a name like A24 come in and grab the wheel for one of the most schlocky series of all times has so much fun potential for horror fans. I really cannot wait to see how this ends up going. Whether this is something that embraces the tone of the later movies, which I doubt, or instead embraces a more artsy, interesting side of the Jason story that A24 is so well known for. But our final trailer today is going to be for Dragon Age Vanguard, which, if you remember a little bit ago, we covered a first trailer for this upcoming game, and it was not super well received by fans because it came across a bit too superhero Marvel-y in terms of its like character presentation and style. But I will say this trailer looked much better, and also I had quite a few responses in regards to that previous trailer telling me like Dragon Age, often not the best trailers, but you know, cool. I'm hopeful this will be a brilliant entry because I know Dragon Age has managed to snag like Game of the Year before. And if the franchise, I mean, it has kind of infinite potential creatively. So I'm hoping it continues to just build and be better and be better. Or this could be terrible. We don't know. Why are we whispering? I think I remember even getting something wrong in that coverage. And I got something like almost kind of wrong in the last fantasy news because I didn't say something right. Y'all, I'm just a goober doing my best. I think I need to consider myself disqualified though, at least from covering video game news in the near future. So you know what? Let's go ahead and toss it on over to Fantasy Schnooze co-host, dear friend of mine, and possible historic figure, Jackson Dick Hurt.
I'd like to go ahead and clarify two things before we get into the news. One, I am only a historic figure for as long as my local McDonald's keeps my mugshot on the wall. Two, it doesn't hurt anymore. The bleeding stopped too. Hello everybody, I am back from the illustrious Worldcon where the Hugos are hosted. Did I actually attend the Hugo Awards ceremony? No, I did not. I was sampling delicious jams and jellies. In the midst of savoring a divine peach raspberry fusion, I heard the news that Baldur's Gate 3 won the Hugo for Best Game / Interactive Work, to the shock of literally no one. It beat out Tears of the Kingdom, Alan Wake 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Dredge, and Chants of Sennar. Now, I'm not saying anything about the quality of the writing in these other games. I've played about half the competitors and still haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 yet. But with 174 hours of cinematics to account for every possible decision in the game, and with the fact that the game sold way over 10 million units, it's safe to say that this game broke out of the gamer space and into the mainstream in a massive way, making it a bit of a shoo-in this year. A huge congratulations to the writers at Larian Studios. We stayed at the same hotel, and I wish I'd played the game so I could have pestered you, but alas, due to ignorance, I was forced to let all of you go about your days unpestered. Also, I knew the whole time that there was no shot Dredge would win, but Dredge is my favorite game that I played last year. It's a cozy cosmic horror fishing simulator. Yes, you heard me say those words correctly and in the correct order. Dredge is fabulous and you should play it. And then hot off the press, we got an announcement for the sequel to Martha Wells' USA Today and Sunday Times best-selling novel Witch King. The next book is called Queen Demon, and while we don't have a cover just yet, we do have the back cover blurb. So spoilers for Witch King, I guess. Skip ahead if you haven't read it and plan to. Dahin believes he has clues to the location of the Hierarch's Well and the Witch King Kai, along with his companions Zied and Tehran. Knowing there's something he isn't telling them, travel with him to the rebuilt University of Encartra. Can Kai stop the rise of a new hierarch? And can he trust his companions to do what's right? So congratulations to Martha Wells for the book baby she has on the way.
Martha, why did you say that name?
Stop! Please, stop!
Why did you say that name?
It's his mother's name.
But that is going to bring us to the anime manga news, and I am not sure how I'm supposed to feel about this because I'm sure it's a big franchise. I know it's a big franchise coming to an end, but I don't know what fans are thinking. Jujutsu Kaisen is officially confirmed to end in just 5 chapters. Written by Gege Akutami, Jujutsu Kaisen is a manga series that has been appearing in the Shonen Jump magazine since March of 2018. There are currently over 90 million copies in circulation, and that's not even counting the digital readership, making it one of the best-selling manga of all time. Not quite being considered one of the big 3, Jujutsu Kaisen is still an absolutely gargantuan force to be reckoned with in this space by, it seems, all metrics, including critical reception. And unlike so many manga that continue to go on and on and on, Jujutsu Kaisen, it seems to be coming to an end in just a matter of weeks. And should I pick this one up? I guess that's where I should end this story. Let me know, Jujutsu Kaisen fans, what you think of this. Is there too many plot lines going on? Can you not imagine how it'll come to a conclusion? Although I imagine with only 5 chapters left, we must be like after, right? I'm predicting, totally guessing, after the main conflict and in the falling action of the story. right? 5 chapters, it's gotta be at least close. Now, I don't know how much bad news you can take today, but I've gotta be honest, I've gotta do my job and just state the facts. If you are a fan of Blue Eye Samurai like myself, probably my favorite animation I watched last year, I'm sorry to say that while season 2 has been confirmed, we're likely not going to be getting it until 2026. So it is still a few years off, but until then, there's no until then, it's just sad. We also learned that its sophomore season will only have 6 episodes instead of season 1's 8. However, each one will be 44 minutes, which falls in with the run times of the previous season, meaning there's still a girthy amount of story to be had. I miss this show. It was so wonderful. I like watching the first season, I was almost like resistant to enjoying it for some reason because I've been disappointed by Netflix a few times recently. But then all of a sudden, like by episode 3, I was like, is this amazing? And then by the end of the season, it was freaking amazing. It's phenomenal. But what's not phenomenal is our final news story of the day, because the SAG-AFTRA strikes groundbreaking AI digital voice replica pact with startup firm Narrative. The union says the agreement sets a new standard for ethical use and makes it easy to performers to give consent and get paid. The firm's new agreement with SAG-AFTRA promises to give the union's 160,000 members the opportunity to add themselves to a database that connects voice talent to advertisers. The individual members will have the ability to negotiate fees for the use of their voice on a project-by-project basis. A representative from SAG-AFTRA said not all members will be interested in taking advantage of the opportunities that licensing their digital voice replicas might offer, and that's understandable. But for those who do, you now have a safe option. Narrative has agreed to our terms, and its platform is an excellent example of how AI can be ethically used to put compensation, informed consent, and control in the hands of individual performers. This structure ensures fair compensation and transparency. Brands must secure consent from performers for every use of their digital voice replica in an ad. When offering an engagement to a performer, a producer must identify the product or service that is being promoted in the commercial they are creating and provide the commercial script. If an advertiser does not align with the performer's preferences or they did not like the copy, they can easily deny the request. And they are touting this as a watershed moment, but the reaction from actual talent online has not been universally welcoming of this deal. Many of the top replies on their announcement of this deal go along the lines of, voice actors need their own union at this point, this is just ridiculous. That doesn't sound like something that complies with what they're pushing for. Safe and digital voice replicas feel like a contradiction. Why do you hate voice actors so much? Yikes! This may come as a shock to you, but artists don't want to sit back and let copies of them generate income in the place of real acting. We're not filthy capitalists. And I understand AI is going to come into the voice acting space. I can see where a form of this deal could be swallowed down as an incredibly rough pill, but it seems like so much less of a fight than was put up for other areas of acting that I also completely get why voice actors are specifically upset. The ongoing video game strike as well, and it makes me wonder how ferocious the fight is going to be there. Can you say that into the mic? How do you feel about this professional voice actor?
Again, this is a personal opinion. This is not representative of every voice actor, but I was offered to do recordings for AI. I was offered a substantial amount of money to do it, but I declined it because it is basically devaluing my voice and any further projects that I would be doing. Also, a lot of the times you are not aware of what your voice is being used for. It is sold off to other third parties via a middleman, and it's very hard to track down what you've been used for. And sometimes I've had many friends who have been used for projects that they wish their names were not attached to. I'm sure there will be counter arguments for this, but I personally believe that's bullshit.
And I think the point I agreed most from all these comments is just artists want to art. I don't think real artists anyway want to just sit back and let an AI replica of their voice do their work for them. I certainly would not in any way, shape, or form want an AI version of myself taking over this channel. I guess like maybe to do an audio correction here or there, but even then it's kind of funny and grounding whenever I have to do that text-to-speech to fix mistakes. Speaking of Kayla's voice acting, let's get a quick indie pub promo.
And today's indie pub promo is Debunked by Dito Abbott, Volume 1 of the Terra Venom Chronicles. Pitched as a YA steampunk adventure that readers have described as Indiana Jones meets Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Sometimes adventure knocks, other times it kicks the door in. Dearest Alexandria and Ozymandias, if you are reading this, I have perished. My demise likely involves some manner of spiked pit or curiously fanged beast, so it's doubtful I suffered long. Do not try to find me, the path is too perilous, and I am lost to the mortal plane. When Alex and Ozzy read their grandfather's latest death letter, they barely blink. Dying 6 times in 2 years has to be a record, even for an explorer as incompetent as Sir Quidby Forsyth III. Faster than you can say kidnapped by a giant glowing lizard, the Forsyth twins are dragged into a world of ancient prophecies, sarcastic swords of legend, mutant slime beasts, and a growing awareness their grandfather might be the greatest explorer in history. With Scar the Annihilator hot on their trail, Ozzy and Alex must solve the mystery of Sir Quidby's disappearance before they become the final victims of the Forsyth curse.
But this has just been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Pick up my book, Neon Ghosts, at shop.wraithmark.com if you'd like to see what my latest writing endeavor has been while I'm working on my next book. And have a good one, y'all. Peace.
And I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest hot tier patrons, John Ward and Vivia L. Ray today.